All right, welcome to the Veterans Club podcast, everyone. I am Jeffrey Rosales, alongside Kat Corchado, Lakeisha Mosley, and D. James. Today, we're going to be talking about sports, leadership, and the importance of keeping our veterans in the fight through sports. Our next guest here served over 23 years in the United States Army, including one tour to Operation Iraqi Freedom. He is also a volunteer head coach for 20 plus years, and he is the founder and the commissioner of the Military Basketball Association that has a mission of life through basketball to promote the military athlete. So, welcome, Mike Myers, to the Veterans Club.
Hey, thank you so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. I love the Veterans Club. Thank you so much for what you guys do. And just, really excited to you all about the Military Basketball Association.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you, and I know you and I talked about, and I think we're getting off on a good foot here because we're both Laker fans, so that makes me happy, and
Yeah,
I love to see
absolutely.
that, and I love the fact that you have your Kobe Bryant shirt on
Bryant.
in enemy territory in the Bostonians. Shout out to Celtics, but I'm a Lakers fan here. So, Mike, I want to get into. Tell us about your background. Where are you from? How did you grow up? Did you play sports?
I did. I grew up in Austin, Texas. With I went to a private school, Christ Community Christian School. Did my public school time at Betachek Middle School. But the person who really kind of instilled a lot of the core values that I have with coaching and just leadership was a guy by the name of Chuck Faust. And Chuck Faust is a great basketball mind, sports mind. He's done a lot to help the youth. He's given them kind of a Christian background, but just really helped me understand how to win and how to, win with a lot of grace. And then, sometimes you lose and how to be magnanimous when you lose. And so he's still doing that at Cornerstone Christian Academy down in Georgia, but he's just, I've encountered so many different basketball minds, but Chuck Faust is by far the greatest coach I ever met.
Now, was Chuck Faust someone also a mentor off the court as well? I mean, you mentioned kind of your faith.
Absolutely.
Did he help you through some challenges? Were there any challenges that you went through that he helped you kind of guide you through them?
Absolutely. There were times where, it was difficult going to school. I mean, I was a African American kid, going to, pretty much a predominantly white school. I had challenges sometimes with that, but most of my friends there were pretty cool in sports. But, there were other things that coach, helped me, not just even when I was in the military and as a basketball coach in the military, dealing and managing with different egos and personalities on teams. He's just a brilliant basketball mind, and I attribute a lot of my success to the things that he's done.
Okay, and your family. You mentioned Fresno, right? I'm a Fresnonian. Go Bulldogs.
So my dad. So my grandfather was one of the first successful African American doctors in the city of Fresno, and my grandmother was the first African American woman to run for mayor in Fresno, Maddie B. Myers and Earl Randolph Myers. And so, my father was born in Fresno. I think he graduated from Edison High School. So
I went to Edison. For a bit too.
Yeah, he's, you ran track. They just, a lot of my roots are there. So my grandmother passed away there in Fresno. My uncle is a very famous opera singer out of Fresno. There's just a lot. My cousins, one of my cousins went to Fresno State University. He's a Bulldog. He played for Tarkanian when Tarkanian was in Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was one of the first, U.S. pages, to come to D.C. and be, in the page program. And so, a lot of our roots, my roots, as far as on my father's side, are from Fresno, California. And, I'm proud for the things that they did. Grandfather was our captain, United States Army doctor. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So just, it's a great city. I love the city of Fresno. And you know, it's you got a lot of fruit there, a lot of oranges, and my memories of going to Fresno are, you know, going up to Yosemite, and seeing the big trees up there. So it's pretty cool.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And, of course, that's struck a chord with me. And every time I tell people that, who feeds America, Fresno does. And I think it's important for folks to
That's
know
right.
that, especially there's a lot of movements that happened in the Central Valley from Cesar Chavez, who was also a Navy
Cesar
veteran. And
Chavez,
so,
that's right. That's
and
right.
so I think it's important for folks to understand that. So I want to know, why did you end up going to the service? Because I mean, it sounded like you came from this military family. And it sounds like your father might have influenced you to join the service here.
No, absolutely not. My
Oh,
my
okay.
my dad. So my grandfather, you know, came out of the Korean War, World War II era. My dad was Vietnam era, and the mindset back then was, you know, a black man has no place in the white man's military. I mean, I'm just being completely frank and honest. That is the mindset that people had. And then what changed joining the service for me is I saw two things. One, I like Star Trek. I love Captain Kirk, and I always wanted to be a leader. And that persona that, you know, for Star Trek was just awesome, right? I love that. And then two, I saw a movie in the 80s called A Soldier Story with Howard Rollins and Denzel Washington and Adolf Caesar. And I saw the way um, a black officer was portrayed in the South, you know, and it was the respect that people had for him. And I was like, man, I really wish I could, you know, that's just awesome, you know. Um, I also, uh, you know, I just always wanted to be a leader, and I enlisted first in 2000. You know, went to basic training. I didn't think I was going to be able to, you know, have a successful, you know, officer career. I didn't have my degree yet, but I enlisted, and I was an admin person, and then I even had trouble in basic training. I didn't think I was going to make it out of that, but um, you know, people along the way, drill sergeants and all that, they helped me out, and you know, I've graduated from basic training, you know, an honor graduate, you know, shot, you know, 40 out of 40 with my weapon. You know, I just, you know, once you get in the military, things that used to be difficult for you are just simple tasks. You know, I had struggled, you know, early in my life with completion of things, and now everything just kind of made sense. It was like, it wasn't a matter of would I finish, it was a matter of, you know, how long it was going to take, and if I was going to, you know, exceed the standard, but I was always going to meet the standard. But for most of my career, I tried to exceed the standard in the military.
And thank you for sharing that. First of all, I appreciate your vulnerability. I think those are the challenges that you faced, but it sounds like the military instilled a sense of confidence in us, right? And what's what I love, that it makes you feel like you can go and attack and do anything.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like that's sort of the experiences. So you ended up joining the army. Um, you joined the army, and then what are some of the things that you did, and were there any tours or any experiences that you want to share here with our community?
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, what jumps out at me right away is, you know, I joined the service. You know, I'm a private E2. I have some financial difficulties with, you know, just, just making it, you know, day to day. And and I had a kid, you know, I had just had a baby, and then 9/11 happens, you know, and so, you know, the biggest thing that happened to me was, you know, I joined the military before 9/11. So there wasn't this, you know, rush or sense of patriotism to join the service. I had already wanted to be a part of, you know, the service. I had already enlisted to serve. But the pain that, you know, I saw 9/11 from everyone, I was like, oh man, this means war. I don't know what that means. I was uncertain about it, but I kind of realized that, you know, this is what, you know, I signed up for. Um, you know, and at around about just about a year after 9/11, I had entered a, I decided to become an officer. I had the college, I had the GT score to join ROTC, and I joined ROTC, and 3 years later, I commissioned as a second lieutenant, and that was at the height, of the global war on terror, in Iraq. I mean, things were going like, as well as could be expected in Afghanistan, but what was on the news every day, what was happening in Iraq and in Baghdad. And so we trained, I trained for that, convoy operations, and that was challenging too, because I'm a second lieutenant, so what do I know? I don't know everything, and but we always think we do. And I had great NCOs. Some are like some pretty big time command sergeant majors now, in the sustainment world. But I just kept pushing forward, and my deployment was I was tough. I mean, that shaped me for the rest of my life. And so it's kind of hard to believe that I enlisted in 1999, and just under 6 years later, I'd be fighting on the front lines during the surge in the war in Iraq. And so it's pretty humbling. And I mean, I guess I could pause and I could tell you a little bit about that, or
Yeah, I mean, first of all, man, thank you. Hats off to you. I mean, just the fact that, and all the veterans here, the fact that you all rogered up during 9/11 or before 9/11 to serve your country, that says a lot about you and Mike, and I appreciate that. I'm going to bring up some of our guest co-hosts, here, and just to see if they have any thoughts and anything they want to add about your military service.
Sure.
Yeah, Mike, first of all, thank you for being here with us. I'm excited that you had the opportunity to join us. And as I'm listening to you share your story, right, and joining the military, not because you were patriotic, oh my God, 9/11 happened, let me go join. That exactly same thing happened to me, right? And I struggle sometimes with that imposter syndrome, that I don't feel like I was that patriotic. I joined in June of 2001, but I was in basic training when 9/11 happened. And just like you, my life changed completely, and it made me who I am today. And as you're sharing about the convoys and missions in Iraq, I was a truck driver hauling a 5,000 gallon fuel truck.
The 969s. That's right.
Yeah, not down Highway 1, setting up fuel points for everyone, to be able to keep pushing forward. And that was in 03. And yeah, I never thought I'd be, driving the lead vehicle across into Iraq, during the war. But that has shaped me absolutely. And yeah, I want to say that, yeah, you was a second lieutenant, but I had some second lieutenants that really, I'm going to take Jeffrey's word. I'm going to say, roger it up and listen to the NCOs, right?
Yeah.
And really take notes, and really took point of who they were, where they're at, and who were those that can help grow them. And I think that speaks volumes as to the type of leader that you are and that you became, as well as where you're coming from, right? Your roots. So one of the questions that I have is that, so how did I know that you have a passion for basketball, and
Absolutely.
you're a coach, and how did that play into your military career, but also as the morale and wellness? Because I know we talked before, and we know how important the sports in the community are, right, to keep the morale up.
Yeah. So, one of the things that was really tough for me was, that deployment in 2006 was really tough. I left my 4-year-old daughter. She was 4. Me and my ex-wife, we left her. We were married and we left together. We were dual military. So that right there was just trauma that I put into her life. And she didn't even ask for it. So I had to deal with that. And then I would never talk to her, because my focus was just trying to get home, So if I started, taking pictures around and keeping personal effects of her, the situation over there was so dangerous that, if I lost track, I'd probably screw something up and not make it back home. Like I said, the danger really kind of picked up in 2007 in May. And, I served just an amazing unit, the Black Knights, 115 Cav. They had some great leadership, but we lost, quite a few people. One was really hard when we lost Chris Hamlin. He was a basketball player. I played with him over in Iraq, and that really affected me. It was tough, to see someone that I'd actually played ball with on the court in Baghdad. When he had free time, and then he just didn't come home. But then that whole month, we lost like 10 guys, 7 in one day. And just due to the threat level, and it was tragic. So I suffered from that. I was suffering, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's a difference between suffering and surviving, and I suffered from post-traumatic stress when I returned home. My best friend was my 5-year-old little girl at the time, or 6-year-old little girl at the time, and I mean that's a tough thing. There were times where I wanted to go out places, and I was having adjustment disorder, and it was anxiety, and really, to sum it all up, it was just post-traumatic stress. And I couldn't play basketball anymore because I had gotten medically evacuated for a cardiac issue. So you take all those things together, and you're like, man, I went to go serve my country, and I'm broke, and I never had cardiac problems before, and now I've got these issues. What's going to keep me grounded in society? I was snapping on people. I wasn't the best person to be around. I was having problems at home, identifying with different things. And I lived with that and bottled that up for like 4 or 5 years. And the climate that existed back then was, mental health. You got mental problems, I don't want to hear that. I mean, we're talking about the end of your career, or career progression. If you come forward and say that you have, some trouble dealing with some of the things you saw. And one of the things I wanted to make sure I touched on, at least on this broadcast, is that if you've got, issues, or you're having, challenges with mental health, we have to all collectively change the stigma that surrounds that. The best way to do that is in sports, because sports is a connective tissue for everyone that serves in this country. You think about the military; we're all competitive, and sports unites us. We may not agree on the same teams. I love the Lakers. You might like the Celtics, right? But we love basketball, right? And so I started coaching at Fort Riley in 2011, and I started to see where I was leveling out and reintegrating back into society, and that was grounding me in what I needed to do. I was a successful company commander. I went to Korea, and I took everything that I learned at Fort Riley, and I went to Korea. And so what's happening now is this thing with sports and its approach is a treatment. It's a tool. It's a mechanism. And if you don't play basketball, what we did with our organization was say, all right, we're going to bring the veterans and the active duty athletes to one location, and then we're going to bring all of the VSOs and service organizations and the VA and different organizations that want to help people. We're going to bring them to you. So you can watch this basketball game, but you can also collect information on how you can get the help that you need, be it the PACT Act, be it, transition services for you when you get out. Those are all the things that lead people to want to kill themselves or in their lives. And we're just saying, hey, look, here's the commonality for all of it. We all served, we all love sports, and we all want a way forward. And so by doing that, I think we changed the stigma. And so I transitioned from a point of suffering with post-traumatic stress injury to surviving. I can't change what happened to me. I can't change what I saw. And Lord knows I saw some terrible things, had to make some unfortunate decisions about things in my life. But I can survive with those things. And by surviving, I think all of us collectively will change the stigma as it relates to veterans' behavioral health.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was there in '05, and we also lost, some people, and we carry that, right? And it's gonna be there with us, but also the memories, their memories, right? The good memories that we had, those games that you play with him, right? Like the fun. He probably was a clown on the court, and probably a clown on on uniform too. And that's how we keep their memory alive, right? But as you're talking through this, I feel that sports, right, unites us all, and
Yes.
it also takes us, like how you said, from surviving to thriving, right?
Yes.
You can be like, are you surviving every day, just surviving, or are you thriving, right? I believe that our goal is to be thriving in our lives, and I think that sports brings that to all of us, because when you get on the court, you start playing and everything goes away, right? And
That's
you
right.
begin to thrive. And by you having those resources right there at the arena, is like it becomes, the stigma is out. Hey, I came to this place. It was a happy zone. I had a great time. Let me grab a brochure. I think that's amazing. So I'm so glad to see that you've been part of taking service members and veterans from surviving to thriving, which I think that's what the
Yes.
NBA is bringing.
That's right. Life through basketball.
That's right.
I think that's powerful. That's a great question. And I do want to bring up, thank you, Dee, and bring up one of our other co-hosts here, Kat, for any comments.
Hi, Mike. It's great hearing about your story. I grew up as a military brat in the Air Force, and sports was something that I did just really well because I was bored. There wasn't really a whole lot to do. But do you think that sports, shaped you as a person, which also helped to help you get through the tough times while you're in the military? And the reason I ask that is because a lot of things that I learned from coaches playing sports are things that I carry with me from civilian to military to veteran to now. I mean, it's still things that have helped me get through those tough times.
Well, yeah, absolutely. My recruiter was like, "Hey, do you think you can get through basic training?" And I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm an athlete, you know. And it's military training, it's combat training, but at the end of the day, an athlete is an athlete. But sports what it does is it brings about a competitive edge, right? And so, listen, I always say this to anyone who ever asks me: the organizational skills and administrative skills that I got, bringing people together. My father instilled a lot of that in me. I watched him do it for 36 years as a minister in churches, in the Southwest Region Conference. And so, but my competitive edge, the thing that drives me, that was my mom. My mother would always say, "Hey, look, if you don't study, you're not going to get the grade and you're going to look like a dummy." And she said, "Why do you want to just do well enough to get second? Train hard, compete hard, and graduate first. Be first. Get the first place trophy, because then you'll be able to sleep at night. You won't be able to sleep at night if you feel like you've left something out there on the table that you could have done to achieve." And so, in my career, even in my military career, I never wanted to be the best officer or whatever. I just wanted to make sure I did the best job that I could do, and I was supporting and serving, the services or officers that were under me. And I feel like in your career in the military, that competitive edge drives you, and it's not so much. It's like sports is so infectious that it gets into like the things that you do in your everyday life. So you're just striving to be better. And really what comes out of that is, you achieve, and so, I've had the fortunate, ability to achieve quite a bit, with on the basketball court as a coach. Some people don't believe I actually played basketball. But the time when I played, there were no cell phones or Instagram and all that stuff. but I could hoop. I mean, I don't need to prove that to anyone, but I definitely could play basketball. Probably could have played college if I had applied myself more. But at the end of the day, we all have something that we're trying to achieve. And without sports, it's like, what's the reason? What's your drive for doing what you want to do? And the first elements of that are, early when you're a kid playing sports. And for me right now, it's like, I don't coach or play anymore, but I'm trying to take the NBA to heights unknown. We're the only military basketball association in the world. And, we've got to solidify that. And that's the thing that wakes me up every morning.
Mm-hmm. I
Being
think it's
number one.
amazing that you said that no one thought that you played basketball, only because I would travel with the team and they're like, well, what do you do? Give the players water? And I'm like, I'm a player. But I also think that basketball, in any sports, but specifically basketball, is that a basketball play isn't static. It can change at any given moment. And I think sports teaches you how to pivot quickly. You have to think on your feet. And I think that's what sports does for you, is helps you not only in sports, but also in life to pivot quickly if you need to and say, okay, I was going to go this way, but now I'm going this way.
Yes, changing direction, and sometimes that is exactly what some of our veterans need. They need to change direction. They've been doing things the same way for years and decades, even with their mental health. And so what sports is doing for us is we're saying, hey, look, here's a different way for us to change the stigma. We're going to change direction, and here's how we're going to do it.
Thank you, Kat. So Mike, so let's actually pivot into that next segment as far as from the NBA. You mentioned that you had lost someone. So was that the driver that made you want to found the Military Basketball Association? First of all, tell us a little more about the Military Basketball Association in itself, right? Like, you are the commissioner, you founded it with 4 other folks, and I think it's a remarkable thing, but tell us a little more about it.
Yeah, so myself and it's actually 3 other guys. So, me and Angel, First Sergeant retired Angel Acevedo, had a conversation about how we were going to change military basketball, because there wasn't, a bunch of teams under one umbrella. There were different tournaments with different rules all across the country, and we wanted to try and standardize things that made sense. And so that conversation led to an event, a tournament in Colorado Springs. Later on, we talked to the rest of our partners, Jason LaFasciano, who I actually served with in Baghdad in 2007, played basketball with. He came on board as the conference commissioner, and he's over the 3 conferences that we have. And then Albert Mayon is our president of basketball operations, and actually is the speaker. He speaks for the NBA, and is the voice to the coaches and the people that are actually volunteering. And so we have a great organization, and then our coaches, they're just the front lines of what we do. They're the first response to some of our athletes and players. They know these guys, they're in their lives. They support them with their programs. They do all of this stuff on their own dime. And then what we do is go out and try to, create events and opportunities so that when these guys are playing, there's a point and there's an end to the season. There's a point to what they're doing in the future. And so, it's really cool, and we've just been fortunate and blessed to get what we're doing on television, and promote it as much as we can. And we have, we are a 501c3. We have over 1,000 athletes. We've impacted over 5,000 military families across the world. We have 32 teams in the United States, 12 to 14 in Europe, and a few out in the Pacific Asian area. And the biggest number that I can tell you just off the cuff of my, that I can remember is 0. We've had 0 suicides and 0 suicidal ideations from any of our participating athletes over the last 6 years. Now, that's not to say that that's going to stay that way. I mean, unfortunately, with suicides being so high, that's something that we're trying to fight against. But to have a number staggering like 0, with the current climate and things today, that is literally what the NBA is about: suicide prevention and providing an outlet for our military athletes.
First of all, congratulations. I think this is a lot about the prestige and the type of organization that you and your co-founders have stood up here. You mentioned one thing that I think is important, because at least in the Veterans Club, we're here to give folks a voice, right? And you're giving folks a voice on the court. What I love about veterans is we miss that camaraderie, and the NBA, it sounds like it's giving them that camaraderie again. They're playing with their brothers and sisters. They're actually hooping. They're competitive. At the end of the day, they go home. They actually have each other's back, and it sounds like that's what the NBA is doing. And I love that, because we're actually missing that right now in today's world, Mike. And we need that.
We are. I don't know what happened, but I know that, funding to a lot of these programs got cut off, especially when I was in the service. And so, can we save just one, And so we stepped up and tried to save basketball. And, that's not the only sport that we're going to be involved with. The reason why we're successful is because we have volunteers like myself, Ace, Jason, and Al, and our coaches that are saying, we don't care if it's funded or not. We're going to keep playing basketball. And so we go out and try to get sponsorships and dollars from folks to help support what we're doing. But we put in hours because some of us are retired because we can. And that dedication and that commitment is why we're never going to fail. Because no matter what, we're going to continue trying to help support these military athletes. And so by doing that, and now with the 19 million veterans that are in this country, now it's like, okay, well, how do we support all of them and get support for veterans as well? So it is tough, the Army or not the Army, but I'll say the Department of Defense and some of the organizations that went with this individualistic approach to fitness. And so when you start thinking about self, right? Okay, well, you're good, but the whole team concept and the camaraderie and the esprit de corps of what we're doing, that's missing. That took a hit. No matter what anyone wants to say, I'll say it here. That has caused a hit. And so now we don't care about each other. We care about what's going on for us. And so what the NBA is saying is, okay, we're all in this together. And if we're able to, come together and at some of these events, we'll be able to make a difference in a lot of more people's lives.
Thank you for sharing that. And, I think, what I love is what you mentioned is you guys have this whole team approach, right? A lot of times in the military, we have that one team, one fight. And it's true, because if you look at very successful organizations, a lot of times we tend to focus on the individual, but it's the team around that individual that actually is going to bring them to that next level. Veterans, again, if we work together and we collaborate, we can actually start solving some of these challenges here. And I think it's great for our future. Now, since we're talking real quick about the future, do you guys do anything with the youth, especially when it comes to sports? Do you guys involve them? Do you guys have maybe veterans mentoring them? Because I think that would be a great idea, right? Especially getting our youth involved when it comes to leadership.
Yeah, we do. We actually do. My deputy commissioner has a camp that he runs for boys and girls down in at Fort Moore, Georgia. He does a lot of stuff with them, a lot of back to school stuff, a lot of basketball clinics and camps. And there's a lot of our coaches help, do these events and support these types of events. If it's not, if there's back to school drives that happen all over the country. And the biggest thing that we want the youth to pull from the athletes and the coaches is that, hey, look, when you see a soldier, he didn't just deploy, he didn't kill someone, he plays basketball, he's got a life just like everyone else. And we have to normalize the narrative that exists, around service, and so there's this stereotype, unfortunately, behind service that exists, where people just think that, all veterans have post-traumatic stress, all veterans have been to war, all veterans have killed somebody or have been in situations that have been dangerous. And I've only deployed once. So, now my deployment was a tough deployment, but I only deployed once. Some people never deploy, but they still serve their country, and they deserve all the credits and accolades that they get from service. And so normalizing that narrative and making that narrative, something that's positive, a positive message is what I'm about and what our organization's about.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I've always joked around with some folks here is we're not robots. We're not going to go and
Nope.
get angry because we go into a civilian organization. It might be a little different. We might need to adjust, but we will adjust, right? A lot of veterans actually go on to become CEOs, politicians, community leaders. In fact, since we're talking about sports here, a lot of the successful coaches that you guys might have, especially successful teams, were led by military folks. Coach K, I'm a Duke Blue Devils fan. He was in the military. Greg Popovich, he was in the military. Like these folks did, and you guys see the Spurs. The success behind the Spurs was because of Greg Popovich, right? His military leadership and the fact that he's instilled that. I think that says a lot, right? And I think it says a lot what you do. I want to bring up Lakeisha here to see if she has any comments or questions on this segment.
Yes, thank you so much, Jeffrey. One thing that I'm hearing, Mike, this is amazing, just your journey and just how your military experience and what you've been impacted with throughout your life, you bring it to your organization. And unfortunately, things happen with the military and the veterans. We leave, we don't understand, we don't have any support. How are you able to keep that going when challenges does arise? And how are you able to keep the veterans and your supporters motivated to keep going?
I'll tell you, suicides keep happening. We haven't done the best job of changing the stigma and making it more comfortable for people to come out and say, hey, I need some help. Until that happens, I'm going to continue waking up every morning trying to, plan events and do things that bring people together. And so, unfortunately, I've lost, quite a few, some senior leaders, some, junior, that to suicide. And so if we're not talking about changing the stigma or changing the narrative, then I don't know what's going to, I'm just never going to get any sleep. I'm on 5 different time zones. I talk to people in, East, West, Central, Mountain Time. And then I'm also talking to people in Europe and overseas. And it's all about trying to help people and trying to connect people to the services that they need so that they can get help. I literally, it's heartbreaking to realize that someone's going through something. They don't see any way out. It could be pain. It could be mental anguish, but from some type of post-trauma. And if basketball is the one thing that they can look at or something that can connect them to some help that they need, then I got to continue to do my job. I ask people to kind of help see, my vision. But I want more events. I want more people to have access to care. Because a lot of this stuff is just education. They don't know the services that are out there that exist for them. They don't know, the things that, Wounded Warrior Project offers with Project Odyssey. They don't know information that, the Veterans Administration offers with the PACT Act and the different services that they provide. And so having this access to everything is very, very important. And when you see stats where, only half of the veterans are using some of these services or not a lot of people know about it, well, we've created a platform with basketball. I didn't get, the potential, the type of monetary value that I wanted from CBS Sports with my platform, but I do have a platform. And so what I want to do is say, hey, look, use my platform to help people, and if it can help the NBA, that's great. But if it's going to save lives and stop people from killing themselves because they have access to care, then that's what's going to keep me going every day. And, the fact that CBS Sports was, gracious enough to give us the opportunity to put this game on television for 3 years, what does that mean? That means this year, in 2024, we're going to be able to tell our story and why it's important for people to get help. It's just crazy. I see that comment. Why is he telling my story? Hey, it's my story, man. But you know what? Sometimes our story is so similar. Every veteran out there that served, and even the folks that are still on active duty, they're going through something, and it's hard to come forward and say, hey, you know what? I was a United States Army major, Battalion XO, and I got post traumatic stress, and I don't care. I'll tell whoever my story because it needs to be told. And if telling my story saves one person, then it's all worth it.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's important for us to tell our stories because it will save lives. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you,
so
Lakeisha, and that's really powerful. And Barry here is an amazing supporter of the veterans, Mike. And what you're saying is you're speaking for a lot of the veterans here because you're able to relate, right? And you said that you were at a certain rank. We had on I think it was a 3-star general in January. He's going through bipolar disorder. He worked for a chief of the combined. He was chief of staff, served for one of the former chief of staffs, right, for the military. And he talked about his mental health challenges. It can hit him too at that level. And I think that's really powerful. I do want to get into the narrative part because I think you and I have talked a little about changing that narrative. But before we do that, it is Women's History Month. Has there been any female vets, shout out to our female vets, any women that you want to give a shout out and tell us more about some of the impacts they had on you from a leadership perspective and mentorship?
Absolutely. It's the reason why I'm here in Boston. I'm here in Boston because my friend, peer, colleague, she did something that I wasn't able to do. She got promoted to lieutenant colonel yesterday. She could have gotten promoted on March 1st, but she held off and waited for me to have the window to come up and be promoted to lieutenant colonel. And just a phenomenal woman. When I came in, and started my journey with basketball in 2011, I tore my ACL, and she was a physical therapist, and I was in her. I was seen by her, and that's Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Ramirez, and I was in tears. I just wanted to play again. And I was like 34, 35 years old or something like that, and I wasn't able to play basketball anymore. And I said, all I want to do is play. Can you fix my knee? And she was like, you're going to have surgery. It's going to be a long road, but you're going to survive. And she's the reason why the NBA is where it is, because very shortly after that, I contacted her and asked her to be my assistant coach at Fort Riley. And she said yes. And we've learned from each other. We changed the military basketball completely. I'd never coached a team without having a person of her caliber on my sidelines. No one has ever been on my sidelines that's been, greater than her. But she's an outstanding, phenomenal physical therapist. And but what she's done for women, other women, coming into different clinics within the medical field and the medical profession, helping to mentor them, bring them along, explain, different things, what she did with my physical therapists that were on staff with me at All Army. She's just a phenomenal leader, had company command, is going to be working with the Surgeon General's office as her next assignment. So she's just a phenomenal leader, but she's, like one of my best friends. And to be here to see another woman get advanced in the United States Army at a time when, during Women's History Month, but at a time when we're seeing more and more women become leaders in our armed forces, it's great. It's phenomenal. She's the best. It's not about a man or a woman thing. Like, if I had to have my kid be seen by a physical therapist or go through rehab, to me, she's one of the best therapists in the world. And so I hats off to her, and I hope that I hope more women seek her out, seek out her mentorship, because she's just a phenomenal leader.
That's awesome, and I appreciate it. And shout out to her once again. Her name is Lieutenant Colonel
Vanessa Ramirez.
Vanessa Ramirez.
Yeah, she doesn't have a LinkedIn account yet, but I was like, hey, you're a colonel now. You got to get a LinkedIn account.
Yeah, it's a must, man. It's a grown up version, and Kat has a really fun name for it. It's a grown up version of Facebook.
Yes,
it's phenomenal. I do want to bring up some of our female leaders since we're talking about that, because I do agree with you, man. Like we can learn a lot. I know some hard charging female Marines. It's just you're like, man, she is on it, and not just because of Marines, but Army, Air Force, Navy. That says a lot about them. So let's definitely talk more about women veterans and their leadership here.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for sharing that, Mike. I think that's amazing. I know that you have, of course, it's the males basketball league, but you also have the female basketball league as well, right?
We do.
So yeah, so I'm excited to see both teams. And can you bring back volleyball, please?
Well, so it's funny you say that. The NBA is not going to stop with basketball, and in 2025 you're going to see soccer and flag football and volleyball and softball and all kinds of different sports that we're going to jump into. And we're going to use the same approach that we use with the NBA. It's kind of a crawl, walk, run, but we may have to kind of walk, run, depending on the type of support that we get. But we are definitely going to bring back volleyball.
Yeah, and so thank you. And I just want to encourage our listeners, right, to look up the NBA and definitely put your support behind it, because as you're talking about PTSD and how we go from surviving, trauma to surviving to thriving. Volleyball for me was one of those sports, right? And I play volleyball for the team in Mannheim, Germany, at Mr. Green's gym. And
I just got off the phone with T Green. Well, he's been chatting with me. T Green, yep, everybody knows him.
Yes. So I was there, I was a military spouse at the time. My husband was stationed there, and I played for the community team, and we travel all across Germany for tournaments. And that was a highlight, right? Yes, I was a military spouse, but I was a veteran. And volleyball has always given me that space to feel safe and that competitiveness, right, that we thrive on. So with your injuries, what is something that you did to fill the void after you couldn't play basketball anymore?
I tried to be with my daughter, and just raise her and focus on her ability to hold on one second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to focus on her ability to succeed in school. And so I put a lot of emphasis on her, on her education. And so, why is that important? Well, she's studying physics at UT now.
Wow.
And she's about to graduate, this May with her physics degree at the University of Texas. And so, I focused on that. I focused on my military career, different things that would kind of help me. I was in command, so I focused on being the best commander and best leader of troops. And so there's quite a few things I tried to focus on since I couldn't play basketball anymore. But the thing is I still had this connection to the game. And so although I could not play, I found a way to get involved as a coach and a leader of men and women. And so and that's just kind of something that stayed with me.
Yeah, that's great. And I do want to hear about the tournament that is coming up. I know I've seen a lot of some of the games on Parade Deck TV on the app. Which, by the way, Parade Deck is an amazing organization. It's founded by a Marine veteran, and ran by veterans for veterans, I will say. So I have been able to watch some of the highlights and some of the games, which I think it's amazing that we're bringing the TV aspect into those military, to showcase the talent that is within the military and the sports as well.
Yeah, I mean, Parade Deck's a great platform, and there's a lot of the goal for the NBA has always been to bring what we do and the talent of our athletes, to bring that to higher platforms. That's the reason why we went out and sought Paramount, VetNet, and CBS Sports Network, and so and more more platforms for us are going to arise. I mean, Parade Deck was great out in Camp Pendleton, California. Rico and Andrew are great, and Shia. Those are great people that work with us, and so we're just looking for as many as the goal for us is to get the word out to as many people as possible about how sports can change people's lives. And so if we can do that through Parade Deck, and we can do that through Veterans Club and CBS Sports Network and Paramount Veterans Network, and Wounded Warrior Project's got their stuff. So the more work that we're able to do to get this exposed, the better off everyone's going to be.
Yeah, 100%. And can you tell us, Jeff just came on board, but I would love to hear about like what your next tournaments are. What are the locations that you guys are going?
Oh yeah. Whew. Well, it's cold out here, so I'm gonna be happy to get in. I'm gonna be happy to go to Puerto Rico next week. Our next event's in Puerto Rico, in Caguas. We've got about 8 teams that are going to be traveling down there to play basketball, for a great cause, and then after that, there's regular season games that are happening actually as we speak right now. And then April's our playoffs. We'll have the 12th to the 14th of April. We have the NBA playoffs. Will start with conference tournaments in Oklahoma City and in Phoenix, Arizona. And then a week later, there's the ACMBC tournament, the Atlantic Coastal Military Basketball Conference tournament, in Philadelphia. And so then we'll take a pause and get ready for a great show in Philadelphia for the NBA Finals, which is the 24th through the 26th of May. And the championship game is going to be at Temple University on the 26th of May on CBS Sports Network, live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's phenomenal. And for those if you guys want to check out the NBA, go to their website. It's right here at the bottom of the screen here. I think it's important, Mike, and what you're doing. And I just want to thank you. And I know we're getting ready to come up with time. I'd like for you to just share with the audience here just the value of changing the narrative, changing why it's important, why they should get involved. You mentioned some of the challenges that you experienced in the military and then out of the military. But sports, like you said, brings us all together, right? I played sports growing up, and I loved it. And actually, basketball was one of my favorite sports, right? Growing up a Laker fan, growing up a Duke fan. And I loved the process. I loved competing, and I loved, being a part of a team. I think a team aspect here, especially when it comes to the NBA, is you guys are actually giving veterans that third space. You're giving military families that third space away from home. Somewhere where they can deal with their mental health challenges, and if they still feels like they're in the military, but not as much in the military anymore, especially for our veterans, right? And so I think changing this narrative is really important. If you can just share why that's important and why folks should get more involved with organizations like yourself. I think it might have froze a little bit. We'll get him back. So while we wait, while Mike gets back, for those of you who've just been part of the Veterans Club here, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Please check out the Military Basketball Association. I do think that is an organization that you guys are going to hear a lot more about, especially here in the Veterans Club. You're going to hear a lot more about Parade Deck here in the Veterans Club. These are veteran-focused organizations that are actually making an impact. And I really appreciate all you guys here being here today. And so I do think that going forward, you might start seeing us a little more on Parade Deck, and you might start seeing a little more folks here doing stuff with the NBA here. So let's real quick bring back Mike up for one last go around here. And so, Mike, I think we got you back.
Can you hear me?
I think we got you back.
Uh-oh. I think the audio on this is, hold on a second, settings.
All right, so while Mike's working through that technical difficulty, again, thank you all for being here today. I think it's really important that we continue to support each other. We continue to collaborate. We continue to give a voice to our fellow veterans here. I was on a conversation earlier with the veteran, and he thanked us for what we're doing. He thanked us the fact that he said that we gave him hope. And that means a lot to us here. And again, if you want to be a guest, if you want to be a part of a guest panelist, please reach out to us. We're going to give it a third try. And if we can't get Mike on, that'd be okay.
No, I'm here. I'm back.
Okay, so you're messing. That's what happens, man. You're over there in Celtic territory. Then they don't like Lakers over there, man. They're over there messing it up.
He on here, and he got into the equipment.
So Mike, real quick, closing thoughts, closing comments. You got the NBA Puerto Rico next month. What is your vision for the NBA a couple years from now?
Okay, so a couple years from now, first and foremost, the NBA in Puerto Rico, it's great. Next year, we're going to have, we have about 10 to 12 events every year. When you think of the NBA, I want people to think of the 3 R's, right? I want them to think of resiliency, retention, and recruiting, right? We are tools in that space. Sports is what connects us. I would say to people that are looking to recruiters that are looking to recruit in the military for the civilian population, we got to get away from the whole, pre 9/11 concept of recruiting. Today's youth, the next generation, they're looking for social influencers. They're looking for people that, they'll join and be a part of something because they can see what they're doing. Miranda, great job. The way to buy tickets. Tickets are available right now. They went on sale Veterans Day last year, but you can get them through Ticketmaster for the event in Philadelphia. Everything else around the country, it's really open admission. The only event we're charging for is in Philadelphia, and those tickets are like $25. But so when people think about the military and they think about what it means to serve, we have to encourage the civilian population to serve, to get out there and join the service. And we can't pitch to them the same concepts that we've done in the past. We have to show them why it's important and how it's not. We don't just fight our nation's wars and deploy. We're husbands, we're daughters, we're uncles and aunts and parents, and we have a dog and a cat, and we leave normal lives. And by the way, we play basketball. And so what you're going to see on the 26th of May is just that. You're going to see the 2 best teams in the world compete in a military championship game, and that's going to be awesome. And so, finally, the last thing I would say is that, if you know someone that's going through something, use the and they're about to harm themselves, use the 988 number that the VA has, the crisis line, and get some help. Don't be afraid to get help. It's not a knock on you. No one's going to look at you funny, and we'd rather have you here in this country and living and among the living than to make the ultimate decision to not, to take your own life. That's the stigma that I want to get rid of. And our partnerships with the VA and in Philadelphia and with Wounded Warrior Project and other organizations that are supporting us, they're going to be there to help you. And so I really appreciate that. And thanks to the Veterans Club, man. You guys have an amazing platform. Jeffrey, Appreciate your time and letting me share these thoughts with you today. Thanks to my team in the Military Basketball Association, Rita Chappelle at the VA, and Rodney Little, what he does with NAVVETS in Philadelphia, Angel and Ace, all those guys, Al Mayon, and all the coaches around the world that are making this thing happen. It's not about Mike Myers. Keep people, it's not about me. I'm just trying to be out there spreading the word, but this is really about, our service members and our veterans. And if we take care of them, we already know that they're going to take care of us. We already know that we live in the strongest country in the world, the land of the home, the land of the free and the brave. But we got to take care of them, man. We got to do a better job of taking care of vets and soldiers, and so or military. So, yeah, man. Thanks so much. I'm loving it. I'm gonna try and enjoy the rest of Boston. I think I'm gonna take this jacket off and run around Kobe proud. But yeah, I'm just glad that I was able to get on here and talk to you guys.
Mike, thank you so much, and please give me an update on how that works out for you once you take off the jacket and see how the Celtic fans react to you. Let me know how that works out for you. If you need a double dog.
MyNBAglobal.com. If you want any information about the NBA, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. MyNBAglobal.com is our website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. We look forward to continuing this conversation and this partnership and really getting the voice out there as one team, one fight. And enjoy that promotion ceremony. Congratulations to the Lieutenant Colonel. Thank you for actually showing your vulnerability and your leadership by recognizing our sisters in arms here, because that we couldn't do it without them, and vice versa. And so I really appreciate it. Look forward to having you back on, and look forward to actually catching a game. I'm really excited to really do that, Mike.
I'll tell you this last thing, and I'll get out of here, man. But I'd love to have the Veterans Club, at the finals, and I got a special place for you guys if you guys want to show up.
All right. Well, you heard it here, Robin, folks. Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it. Shout out to everybody here. If you guys are going to be on the after show, there is a link. Thank you again, Mike. Veterans Club signing out.